What's up? What's up? What's up, YouTube? It is I, it's me, it's your boy D, and I'm back here with another one. And tonight, I'm here to continue on with my Twisted Toons franchise and each group and each individual member. And tonight, we doing the Justice League, all right? So without further ado, without further ado, ain't nothing to it but to do it. So let's dive into it. What's good, YouTube? I'm back. It's me, it's your boy D. And I'm continuing on trying to get through each and every last one of these characters of our franchise and each group that they're in. And so far I've done what? Team Mario, Bart, the Dudes, Gay Gang, Police, you name it, I've done it, right? Well, this time we continuing on with a group that's kind of already a group in real life, but we put our own spin to it. I'm talking about the Justice League, all right? The reason we put them into the franchise is because we were DC fans back then, a little more than Marvel. Marvel wasn't hot like it is right now. So DC was kind of the thing. Justice League was one of the shows we used to watch. So once I figured out Josh knew how to draw all of them, of course we had to have them on the franchise, all right? So we got them on there. We bought them in there as their own unit, obviously. Actually, one of them was already a part of the franchise, which I'll get to. But we had them as their own unit, and then eventually we ended up giving them their own unique personalities, their own little side jobs on top of being Justice League members. And then we got a couple of affiliates that I threw in there with them that are not necessarily Justice League, but they're affiliated with them. So I included them onto this list, all right? So with that being said, I ain't gonna waste no more time. Let's get to the first and most important character, all right, of the Justice League, all right?
Superman.
All right, Superman. All right, now, Superman is obviously the number one member of the Justice League, the most important member in our universe and our franchise. He's actually one of the co-leaders of the Justice League, all right? And as you can see on the thumbnail, the personality that we gave Superman is he's your hardcore right-wing conservative MAGA nut job, all right? And I'll explain why we gave him that personality later. But in the beginning, actually, it wasn't. His introduction into the series was my idea. Basically, we had one of the Justice League members already a part of the franchise. So once I discovered that Josh knew how to draw them all, obviously I wanted to put them all, into the franchise. It's Superman in particular, all right? And his original role, purpose, character, personality within the franchise was he was to be one of Mario's rivals, one of his many arch rivals that he has on the show, all right? And that was pretty much it. One of the very first episodes I wrote of Superman is he's briefing the Justice League, and he's got a bulletin board, with a picture of Mario on it, and it says the enemy. Because he was basically brought on the franchise to be another rival to Mario. And that's the only idea I had for him at the time. I remember I wrote one episode where Mario and Sonic, kind of got into it with the Justice League and made a bet with them, and they lost. And then they ended up having to wear dresses in the middle of the neighborhood. And you see the Justice League walking off laughing at them, all right? So in the beginning, it was basically another rival for Mario, another ops, basically to go up against Team Mario, and Superman was the leader of that. After a while, what ended up happening, though, was I transitioned Mario into another one of his rivalries. So what was I to do with Superman? Well, I remember writing a specific episode where the Justice League went to do a certain mission somewhere. And obviously the Green Lantern, John Stewart, is also a part of this Justice League team. which I'll get to later on. But he is the black character of the Justice League. He's the black superhero. So I forgot the exact reason why he got upset that particular episode, but I remember writing a line for Superman where he's basically trying to be cool. And he's like, calm down, man. You know, it ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. And that was a line that I actually stole from the Martin show. It was an episode of Martin where he had Tommy Davidson on there playing this Hollywood cornball named Barnell Hill. And he used that line to try to be cool towards Martin. And it was corny. So I basically just stole that line and had Superman say it on an episode. But as I wrote it and I read it, I kind of realized how offensive that kind of sounds coming from somebody like Superman. So then that gave me an idea. So I took that, and each episode after that, I would write these little low-key racist undertone jokes that Superman would reference towards Green Lantern, and it would upset Green Lantern even more and more. And what I was doing was planting the seeds to what Superman's personality on our franchise was to become, which was his main primary personality in our universe is he is the hardcore racist character. And when I mean hardcore racist, I mean hardcore. I wrote Superman a blatant bigot. He can't stand black people, you know, Jews, Hispanic folks, Asian folks. He's a sexist, and everything that you could think of a bigoted, racist white guy is what we wrote, is what I gave Superman, basically. And it started off with that, and it trickled all the way down to eventually him, you know, using that N-word, the hard ER towards Green Lantern and everything, all right? And the reason for that was because around that time, there was certain movies that I just happened to be watching at the time, or it just came on like HBO or something. And there was 4 movies in particular that started to give me the ideas to use for Superman's personality. And those movies were American History X, Rosewood, Higher Learning, and Mississippi Burning. I basically took elements from each one of those movies, of all those horrible, you know, racist characters within those movies, and I put it towards Superman and gave him that personality. Also at the time, there was a documentary that came on HBO called Skinheads USA or something like that. It was made in the early 90s, but it was based around this guy named Bill Riccio, who had this like cult following of young white kids that were skinheads that were racist as hell, and he would say some of the most out-of-pocket racist things and had the most racist views. And basically, I took that guy's personality, even some of the stuff that he said. I remember one of the lines, he was like, I'm trying to be a white, but we're back now. Now, as I was saying, you know, he would say absurd things like that. And so, yeah, that's the personality that I gave him. And I just, even though he's Superman, and I mean, he's like the all-American white guy character. So for me, it was pretty easy for me to place that personality upon him, all right? Now, on top of that, there's also, well, let me get to the thumbnail, okay? So yes, even though, yes, Superman is our racist character. And so what made me turn him into the MAGA guy is, now obviously when we were creating this thing, Donald Trump was not president. He was not running for president. He wasn't a candidate. Back then, he was just, you know, the dude from The Apprentice, as far as I remember, all right? The reason why I slapped that personality upon Superman, though, now is because that's just something I did recently. Looking at, you know, the lay of the land these days and how things are. I'm not saying that, you know, all Trump supporters or MAGA people are racist. However, that is the stereotypical personality of one of them. So this being one of those shows like that plays onto those stereotypes, I just decided to give it to Superman. Plus, I'm a liberal. Like, just straight up, I'm a hardcore liberal. So yeah, I look at some of those people that way. So, with that being a thing and it being what it is, I thought that's perfect. Give Superman. So with that being said, he is the hardcore conservative, make America great again, Trump supporting, gun toting Republican that can't stand DEI or nothing like that, and it's because he's racist and he likes to be known. And Donald Trump is his hero because he says what Superman wants to say anyways publicly. Now aside from that, Superman is who he is, but I also gave all the Justice League members their little side hustle, side jobs or whatever that they do outside of the Justice League work, because they don't even use their powers because it just wouldn't make sense, for the franchise. So, when Superman ain't Superman and then being his racist self, I believe I actually made him a McDonald's worker at one point in time. I think I had him as Clark Kent working for McDonald's for a short period of time. But his main primary side job outside of being, Superman and being the racist Republican is he's a school teacher. He's a part-time school teacher. And the reason why I gave him that personality in the beginning is because, like I said, I wrote him in the beginning as an enemy to Super Mario. So what I wanted to do was have him interact with somebody close to Mario, that being Mario's kid. In our universe, me and Josh gave Super Mario a child with Jigglypuff from Pokemon. I know that's weird, but that's what we did. So with that being said, we also gave Luigi a child with Sailor Moon. So we put both of the two cousins in the same class and had Clark Kent, Superman, as their teacher. And there was many different episodes where I had them basically antagonizing Superman because he knows who their fathers are. You know what I'm saying? So he already dislikes them because of that. And there's some little badasses and they don't care. So I remember I wrote one particular episode where, because Wonder Woman, who I'll get to also, is also a school teacher who Superman crushes on. So I had him write a letter to her, a love letter that he gave to Mario's son to give to her. And then he wrote a hate letter because there's also a gay teacher we created named Mr. Gayman. And we had him write a hate letter and give that to Luigi Jr. and have him, basically they were supposed to give these two letters to these two teachers. But what ended up happening was, them being the mischievous kids that they are, switched up the letters and gave them to the opposite teachers. So both of them ended up being mad at Wonder Woman ended up being mad at Superman. The gay teacher thought Superman wanted him. And then at the end of the episode, you see Superman screaming to the top of his lungs at the two kids. So yeah, so when he's not doing his Justice League thing, he's a school teacher. And basically, that was the main, I'm trying to think of what else I wrote. I believe that was it. That was the main personality that I wrote for him, other than him being himself. Excuse me, he's just Mr. Kent. That's what they call him, Mr. Kent. And I believe that is it. That's pretty much it, for Superman. He's just his main role within our franchise is he is the racist of the show, and he's a part-time school teacher that nobody likes. Oh yeah, now I remember. You see, he's got this thing where he don't tell people that he's Superman. So the students in his class don't know who he is, but they're also comic book fans. So he gets upset because they seem to be more into Marvel comics, Spider-Man and shit like that, versus DC, which he's a part of. So he gets upset with them because they don't want to read Superman. They think that comic is boring, but they don't know that it's him that they're talking about. So that's his whole ordeal with that too that I wrote. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That's the personality that I gave Superman, and yeah, that's pretty much it. All right. So I done ran my mouth enough about him. So with that being said, let's move on to the next character.
Batman.
Batman. All right. Continuing on with the Justice League, and obviously I'm starting off with the Trinity here. If I started off with Superman, you knew who I was going to talk about next, all right? Batman. Now, actually, Batman was already a part of the franchise before the entire Justice League was. You see, if you don't know nothing about me, Batman is my favorite superhero of all time. So once I figured out Josh knew how to draw him, oh hell yeah, we was gonna put Batman on the franchise, all right? But he didn't last very long in the beginning. I think he appeared in like episode 24. Basically, he had this like rivalry with Sonic that we just created out of nowhere. And I've shown that picture before on other YouTube videos that I made, but basically he got into an altercation with Sonic in some kind of factory. Doug was also with Sonic. He knocked Sonic off of the balcony to the thing, and as Sonic was falling, he was shooting, so he killed Batman. He shot Batman as he was falling down, which is how Sonic got the big muscles that we gave him. And then after that, that was it. He was pretty much dead. We killed him off very, very early. However, I didn't want that to be the end, of Batman, because there was so much more I could do with him. So once we brought the Justice League into the franchise, for a period of time, it was them without Batman, because I was like, well, we can't put him in the thing. We done killed him now. So we kind of replaced him, which I'll talk about later on in the video. But I just felt like he needed to be there. So as we're creating this thing, I mean, it's a cartoon. It's not real. So there's ways that you can, Josh was like a Dragon Ball Z fan. So I wasn't, but he was. So he told me they would do things on there like wish certain people back to life. So I took that idea. I was like, well, why don't we use that for him? And so I wrote an episode to where basically the Justice League needed Batman for something. I forgot what it was, but they needed his expertise for something. So I had Superman wish him back to life with some kind of voodoo shit or something like that. And then Batman was back. And the reason why I wanted him back is because Batman is like, to me, the natural enemy of Superman. And I wanted Superman to have more enemies other than just Mario. And I just felt like Batman was that natural fit, because Batman can beat Superman in real, well, he ain't real, but in the comics he can. So that was my sole purpose for bringing him back. I wanted somebody to, be like another antagonist to Superman. And once I gave Superman the racist personality that I gave him, I kind of had him incorporate that not only with the Green Lantern, but also with Batman. Because basically I had Superman say something on one of them episodes and make a reference to Jewish people, because like I said, Superman is the ultimate prejudice bigot on our show. So he made a, offensive remark towards Jews. And so I kind of had Batman say, hey, bro, I'm Jewish. Like, basically admit that he was Jewish. Which, I mean, obviously in real life, he's just a white guy. But, I mean, motherfucker's rich. So, yeah, he can be Jewish. I mean, I ain't saying they all got money, but that's the stereotype. So we're using the stereotypes with this. So, yeah, I made Batman Jewish and get hella offended by the stuff Superman was saying, and created that natural rivalry between the two of them again. And he's the other co-leader of the Justice League, basically. And he also, like Superman, has his own little side gigs that I gave him. Now, Bruce Wayne is rich, so he really don't have to do shit at all. But for the purpose of our franchise, I wanted to give him something. So I made him like basically the substitute school teacher at the school that Clark Kent, Superman, works at, and Diana, Wonder Woman, works at. And he's basically the teacher that their students all like, and Superman can't stand that shit. Because, like, you know, and also the students in his class, although they're more Marvel fans, they like Batman. Because who don't like Batman? And that pisses off Clark Kent even more. Because, like, now you like this son of a bitch too. You know what I mean? So that's his other side gig, is he's a substitute school teacher when he wants to be. And lastly, I had to see, I kind of gave the Justice League some kind of weird side gig. So when he ain't being Batman, when he ain't being the substitute teacher, Batman spends his time doing karaoke with Goofy from Disney. Why? I don't know. I just kind of threw them together. So yeah, when he ain't doing that other stuff, imagine Batman at a karaoke bar with Goofy. You couldn't imagine it, right? Well, you're going to imagine it on our franchise because it happens. And that's something he's embarrassed by, but he does do that. And so that's pretty much it. That's Batman within a nutshell. Other than that, he's only involved in stuff having to do with the Justice League, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. All right, now continuing on with the Trinity of the Justice League. Obviously, Wonder Woman is the third member of that Trinity. She is the third co-leader of the Justice League in our universe. Now, Wonder Woman, Diana, obviously she was brought into the franchise with the rest of the Justice League. And she's the more level-headed one, probably, of them all. And obviously you don't want to fuck with her. She's Wonder Woman. Come on now. Her original, basically, role, personality, or whatever is, she was actually the love interest to Superman and Batman, but first Superman. In the beginning, I just wrote her as Superman's woman because I always thought that those two were like an item in the comics, but I also don't follow the comics that much. So I thought it made sense to put them two together. So in the beginning, when I first wrote them, they're kind of a thing. I remember writing one episode where they were kind of, I think it was after they got at Mario and Sonic. Two of them were getting it on, and the other Justice League members were watching through the window, all right? But after that, especially after we brought Batman back, I kind of changed her role a little bit because with Superman becoming the super racist that he was, I had it that Wonder Woman, Diana, did not like that, all right? And didn't agree with none of the stuff he was doing or saying. And also, because around the time we was writing this thing, the Justice League series was out. I believe it was either Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, but it was both of them were, out around that time. So in that series, they kind of had Wonder Woman and Batman as an item. And I like that, because obviously Batman is my favorite superhero. So with that being said, I took that, stole that idea, put it on our franchise, and had Wonder Woman be the love interest of not just Superman, but also Batman. And actually, she likes Batman on our franchise and is actually his woman, basically. And even, because her side job, along with, her being Wonder Woman, is she's the other school teacher in the school with Superman and Batman, and she's the love interest of Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne. So there's certain incidents where she's in the school flirting around with Bruce, Batman, and Superman is watching from the shadows or something, or from afar, pissed off and jealous. Because she views Batman as more of a man than Superman, basically. And when he's going on his racist tirades, he kind of belittles her for dating, a Jew. But she don't care. And that's pretty much Wonder Woman. basically her main personality is she's Batman's woman, she's Wonder Woman, she's a school teacher. And when she's not doing that, her little side gig, goofy side gig that I gave her, is that she's a news anchor, like, a Channel 10, Channel 12 news anchor with a co-host, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. All right? Why I put them two together, no idea, no real reason. Just I had to give her somebody, off the wall to pair with her when she's doing her little news anchor things. So I put her with Oswald. All right, and Oswald, I have written in the franchise is a drunk. So sometimes he shows up to the set drunk and everything, late, pissing everybody off. That's what got him fired from Disney, and Mickey replaced him. I got a whole thing for him, right? But yeah, he's her news anchor co-host when she's hosting the news, all right? And that's pretty much it. That's Wonder Woman in a nutshell. That's her personality. That's the role we gave her. And that's that, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character.
Robin.
All right, now, Robin. Now, Robin is obviously not an original member of the Justice League. So I know y'all probably like, why in the hell do he got Robin as a part of the Justice League? He's supposed to be part of what? Teen Titans, right? Well, so basically the inclusion of Robin into the Justice League and into our franchise was my idea. And the reason why I came up with that is because at the time that we brought the Justice League onto the franchise, Batman was dead. So it just didn't feel right without Batman or an affiliate of Batman. So that's basically why I put Robin in that role, was basically to replace Batman, all right? But obviously he's no Batman, right? And his personality when I first wrote the Justice League into the show was, he was like an annoying little bitch boy, all right? Nobody really wanted him around. Yeah, I mean, Green Lantern them dealt with him. Superman can't stand Robin. And basically, I wrote like a board of directors for the Justice League that, brings members in and out or whatever, votes who is in and out. So Superman don't have no control over that. Otherwise, Robin wouldn't have been part of it. But he just deals with him. And I didn't write much for him, and whenever he speaks, it's usually his holy cow, Superman, or the shit that he says on the Batman series. He would say towards Superman, which would piss off Superman. He'd be like, kid, don't ever say that shit to me again, all right? I'm not him, basically. And matter of fact, on that picture that we drew, that Josh drew of Superman and Wonder Woman kind of getting it on and Justice League watching, Robin is in the corner, beating off, all right? That's pretty much what he was, and he doesn't have a important or specific role at all, other than he's just there. Especially when Batman comes back, Robin is kind of just there, all right? Now his side gig, when he's not Robin, is I just made him a local grocery store clerk. I mean, I just gave him the most randomest regular job as is, and he's just your random grocery store clerk. He's somebody to stock your shelves or help you with something. You find old Robin, Dick Grayson, whatever, he's there, all right? And that's pretty much it. That's right, straight to the point with Robin. He's just there. He was a replacement for Batman. Once Batman came back, he kind of was just there, all right? And so that's Robin, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character.
Green Lantern.
All right, Green Lantern, John Stewart. Green Lantern, actually, even though Batman is my favorite superhero of all time, probably my favorite member of this version of the Justice League, especially in our franchise, would be Green Lantern, John Stewart, all right? Now, obviously, I brought him into the franchise along with the rest of the Justice League, and at first there was no real direction for him. He was just one of the Justice League members, that's it. But as I said, after a while, when I wrote that one episode where they went on a mission or whatever and Superman made that remark, that became the genesis of me evolving John Stewart, the Green Lantern's character, even more, you know. He's the black guy of the Justice League, you know what I'm saying? The reason we didn't use like Cyborg or nobody like that is because we were basing this off of the Justice League that was on TV, on Cartoon Network at the time. And so they were using John Stewart, the black guy, Green Lantern. And so, you know, we took a liking to him. You know, he holds a special place in the hearts of us millennials. And so that's why he was used. So when Superman made that remark, it obviously offended Green Lantern. And from that point on, Green Lantern became Superman's greatest rival on the show. Yeah, he's got his rivalry with Super Mario. He's got his rivalry with Batman. But that rivalry between Superman and Green Lantern is one of the most intense I've ever wrote, because it's also based off of a lot of reality, because it's the race thing, you know. So a lot of the stuff Superman says is stuff that people actually really want to say towards black people. And so the reaction that he gets from Green Lantern is the reaction that a lot of us black people would have, you know, to that type of stuff. He's beat up Superman a few times, actually, believe it or not. And it got so bad to the point with him where, you know, it got so intense between him and Superman that basically, you know, I have Superman as the MAGA, hardcore, conservative Republican. So Green Lantern, on the flip side, is the progressive, liberal, you know, left-wing Democrat, basically. And it got so intense between the two of them within our franchise that I basically had, forgive me for the interruption, you know, technical difficulties. But it got so intense between the two of them that Green Lantern had to basically quit the Justice League for a period of time. And what happened after that was I changed Green Lantern John Stewart's personality from a hardcore, you know, no nonsense guy that he was to an even more hardcore, no nonsense, militant, you know, civil rights, Black Panther-esque activist, you know, where he started to the point where he's wearing a beret, you know, he's wearing the one black glove and he's doing all this civil rights stuff. He turned Muslim, you know, he changed his name to Kareem Akbar Muhammad. Yeah, it got that intense with him, all right? Now, on top of that, his side gig, on top of him being the militant activist that he became as a result of Superman, is that I made him a barber, okay? And the reason I made him a barber is because I was watching the movie Barbershop at the time. So I put Green Lantern in that Calvin Ice Cube role as a head barber of his barbershop, you know what I'm saying? And on top of that, when he's not doing all that stuff, his other side gig is he's a hip-hop music producer with his co-producer, Daffy Duck. Okay, him and Daffy are boys. You know, they do music together. They both got a vision for music, and so I kind of put the two of them together as these music producers, you know. And then eventually he returns to the Justice League. But he likes to call himself Kareem, and it's a whole deal where him and Superman are always going back and forth because they got obviously different opinions on a lot of different things. And that's pretty much the Green Lantern in a nutshell. You know, I had it to one point where when I made the final movie that I made, Superman kind of formed an alliance with Yakko, who became the president, and they took out all their enemies. And Superman got rid of both Batman and Green Lantern in various different ways, you know. He took Batman and threw him in the trunk, tied him up, you know, set it afire and threw it on the Brooklyn Bridge, off the Brooklyn Bridge. And him and his guys got together and took Green Lantern and took a noose and hung him, basically. And it was supposed to be the end of them up until the next movie where they would have come back and haunt Superman in his dreams and eventually return, alright? We just didn't get that far. But that's pretty much Green Lantern in a nutshell, alright? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character.
Hawkgirl.
Hawkgirl, Shaira. Now Hawkgirl obviously was brought into the franchise as a part of the Justice League because she's one of those original 7 Justice League members that came from the show that was on at the time, alright? So obviously she was going to be included in this. Plus it's always good to have more female members, you know what I mean? And her personality, or her main personality within the show is she is Green Lantern John Stewart's woman, alright? And that ain't something we put together. That's something they showed on the actual show. Her and Green Lantern John Stewart were an actual couple. So we just transferred it on to our franchise. She hates Superman, obviously, because he's racist as fuck. And her man is black. So, you know. Now when Green Lantern, when we turned him into like the militant civil rights activist, she was one of the people trying to talk him out of that, trying to bring him back to his self. He would sometimes listen, but he sometimes wouldn't. You know what I mean? But for the most part, her main role is obviously being Hawkgirl and being Green Lantern's woman. Now her little side gig, you know, when they all went off and did their own thing for a while, is she was also a barber in the barbershop with Green Lantern. And again, that's because I was watching the movie Barbershop. And so I kind of since I gave Green Lantern that Ice Cube Calvin role, I gave Hawkgirl the Eve role. Matter of fact, I wrote one line there where she was like, "Who drank my goddamn apple juice?" You know, like she did on the movie. Alright. And that's pretty much it. And then when she's not doing that and being a barber or whatever, I also got her working part-time at Starbucks with Snoopy. When Snoopy ain't doing his douche shit, alright? I don't know why I gave her that. I needed a random job for her. And so, I believe I was at Starbucks at the time when I came up with that. So I just, hey, she can work at Starbucks. Why not have Snoopy with her as a co-worker? It don't make sense, but it ain't supposed to make sense. You know what I'm saying? In the grand scheme of things. And, that's pretty much it for Hawkgirl. She's a bitch. And when I say a bitch, I mean she has way more of an attitude than Wonder Woman, but she's like that also on the show. So it wasn't hard for me to write her like that, alright? And that's pretty much it for Hawkgirl, alright? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character. Alright.
The Flash.
Alright, the Flash. Alright, now, of course, one of the most important Justice League members is the Flash. We couldn't have the Justice League on the show without the Flash, right? Right. So, obviously his original inclusion in the show was just the casual member of the Justice League. However, we did a little bit more with him because he's the Flash, and we also had Sonic on the franchise. It made sense to have them as a rivalry together, just like Superman and Mario. So in the beginning, that's why Sonic was included in that little thing, because he had like a beef with the Flash. And I remember I had them like in a race event, racing each other and everything, where the Flash cheated and tripped Sonic. And that's, matter of fact, that is the reason why that picture exists of them wearing dresses. That's what it was. I had the Flash and Sonic race each other, and the Flash cheated, and so they ended up having to wear dresses because of that, alright? And pretty much that was him. And Flash's personality on the show is just like on the Justice League. He's the young, wild one that irritates Green Lantern, but he's also his boy. Like, so when Superman is on his racist thing, Flash ain't with him. And that pisses off Superman because it's like, you're a fucking white guy. But you know, Flash ain't with that. Green Lantern's his boy, alright? And so, yeah, that's pretty much his main role. I didn't write much for him individually other than him beefing with Sonic. Other than that, he's just one of the Justice League members that's always around. You know, when it's mostly involved around Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Batman. Flash is one of the guys that's always there, that's always backing up Green Lantern when Superman's going on his little tirades. And that's about it. And then the little side gig that we gave him when we split them off for a little bit and gave them their own thing is I made the Flash a circus clown. I don't know why. I was honestly just giving the Justice League the most random side job. And so I was like, how would the Flash look as a clown? All right? And so I just made him a clown. That's it. And then also, when he's not doing that stuff, he's also the host of a podcast of his own with Donald Duck. Yeah, Flash and Donald Duck have their own podcast that's blowing up the charts out there in podcast land, all right? I don't know why I put them together either, I just did. I mean, if I put Daffy with Green Lantern, I was like, let me put Donald with Flash and see how that would work out. And so, yeah, the Flash and Donald Duck have a podcast, all right? And other than that, that's it. That's pretty much all I wrote for Flash, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next.
Mulan.
All right, Mulan. Now, I know you're probably like, why the fuck is Mulan included with the Justice League? She's a Disney princess, right? Let me explain. Mulan is not an original character of our franchise, meaning she was never actually drawn into the franchise, all right? I just included her here recently because I probably would have put her with them. And basically, her role is she's basically an affiliate of the Justice League. She's not a member, but she's an affiliate. And the reason why she's an affiliate is because the role I would have gave her within the franchise is she would have been the Flash's woman. All right, I put Mulan and Flash together as a couple. Just because, I don't know. I felt like their personalities would have, you know, him being wild and goofy the way he is and her being kind of stern, I felt like it would have meshed, all right? And that's another thing that would have pissed off Superman is because this is an Asian woman, all right? So it would have been that whole dynamic too, all right? And so basically that she's not an original member that I wrote, but if I would have wrote her into the franchise, that's what she would have been, Flash's woman. And on top of that, she is, I believe I wrote her, I would have made her like a bank teller or something. She would have been one of those people working at the bank, you know what I'm saying, making sure your direct deposit is what it is and all that. And she can handle her own too, you know. If she needs to help the Justice League, she can. But, you know, for the most part, she would have just been Flash's woman, all right? And that's pretty much it, all right, for Mulan. So with that being said, let me move on to the next.
Martian Manhunter.
Martian Manhunter, John John's third, all right? Now, obviously, he's a part of those 7 original Justice League members from the show. So we had to include him when we brought the Justice League into the show. Now, out of all the Justice League members, he's the one that we really don't do a whole lot with because, you know, Martian Manhunter is as good of a hero as he is. He's just not all that exciting. But he's there, all right? You know, he's one of the ones that doesn't like Superman either. Superman doesn't like him either simply because he's a Martian, all right? I remember one specific episode I wrote where they all went back, Flash took them all back in time to like the segregated Jim Crow South, where Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter obviously were not allowed in certain places that were white only. That was one of the main, you know, things I wrote him as a part of. But other than that, I didn't write much for him, you know, other than him making little smart remarks towards Superman. When Superman would say something to him, he'll say something like, bite me or something like that. The little side gig I gave him now, though, is when he's not being the Martian Manhunter, he's a tax accountant. Yeah, he takes care of your taxes for you. So if you need somebody to do your taxes for you, all right, Sean Johns is a smart man, all right? And he's a guy that does that. And when he's not doing that, I made him a part-time Major League Baseball commentator, along with Garfield, when Garfield ain't doing dude's business. You see what I'm doing here with all of this? So imagine Martian Manhunter and Garfield calling a baseball game. Well, that's what you have in our franchise, all right? And that's pretty much it. It ain't too much detail to get into Martian Manhunter other than that, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character.
Shazam.
Shazam. Now, although Shazam is kind of a part of the Justice League in real life, you know, he mostly on Justice League Unlimited from what I remember, he's not originally written into our show. Josh never actually drew Shazam. But he's an add-on that I would have added on into the Justice League if we were still writing it, all right? And his role would have been to be Shazam, basically. He would come in here and there, you know, every now and again. I would have Superman despise him too, simply because he's too much like Superman, which is why Superman don't like him. And other than that, his side gig that I gave him would have been a taxi cab driver, all right? Yeah, Shazam was also a taxi cab driver when he's not Shazamming, all right? So imagine being in New York City calling your taxi cab. Oh, who pulls up? Shazam. Yeah. And that's basically it, man. I didn't, like I said, he's not originally written into the franchise, so I can't say but so much about him, all right? But that's Shazam in a nutshell. He's Shazam, and then he's the taxi cab driver, all right? And with that being said, let's move on to the next.
Snow White.
All right, Snow White. All right, again, another one of them Disney princesses. Like, what the fuck is she doing with the Justice League, all right? Now, she is one of those, again, affiliates that I've talked about. She's not originally written into the franchise, and she wouldn't actually be a part of the Justice League, but she'd be affiliated with them if I was to have still been writing this, and her role would have been Shazam's woman. You know, that's what I would have made her. She'd have been Shazam's girlfriend, and yeah. I forgot the side job that I gave her. You'll probably see it whenever the video is edited, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to put it up there. But I gave her some kind of side job. I just don't remember exactly what it was. But she's basically Shazam's woman, all right? And it's interesting because at first I think I had her with Elmo originally. But then I put Elmo with like Betty Boop or somebody, because I thought Snow White fit better with one of the Justice League members. So that's why I put it with Shazam, all right? And that's pretty much it for her. Like I said, I didn't write nothing for her because she's an additional add-on and an affiliate. But that would have been her role, basically, all right? So with that being said, that's Snow White in a nutshell. Short, sweet, to the point. Let me move on to the next character.
Static Shock.
Static Shock. Now, Static is not an original member written on the franchise or in the Justice League. However, he would have been an add-on, and he would have been my idea because, like Batman, Static is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. And he's a black superhero too, absolutely. Okay, I already know the exact idea I would have had for him. I would have had him become a new member of the Justice League along with Gear, his sidekick, Richie. And I would have had Superman be absolutely appalled by the fact that the board of directors chose... At first, I would have him confuse Gear and Static. I'd have him think that the white guy was Static and that Static was the sidekick Gear. Only to find out that the black dude is actually Static and the white guy is Gear. So that would piss Superman off even more. And then he would just be himself. Like, Static is cool as shit already as is. So I wouldn't change much about him. I just have him make wisecracks towards Superman. Obviously, Green Lantern would be a mentor to him. And he would just be Static. I don't even really give Static a side gig because I can't see him as anything but Static or as Virgil Hawkins. And that's pretty much it. I didn't write nothing for him, obviously, because he's, even though Static Shock was around at the time we were writing this, I didn't really appreciate it back then. I didn't know what it was. It took me a few years later to realize what Static Shock was and to watch it and to appreciate that character. So I definitely would have added him in there. And that's pretty much it for Static. Not too much. There ain't too much to talk about because I didn't write much. I didn't write anything for him, but he definitely would have been an additional added member to the Justice League had I been able to continue on writing this thing, all right? And that's pretty much it for Static, all right? So let me move on to the next character, all right?
Elsa.
Elsa from Frozen. Now, once again, another Disney princess. So obviously, what is she going to be? An affiliate to the Justice League. She obviously wasn't originally written into the franchise at all because Frozen didn't even exist when we were writing this. So she's somebody I just recently threw in there. And she's a little bit unique and peculiar because obviously Elsa can hold her own. So I can see her as an additional member of the Justice League if they needed her. She can use her ice powers or whatever. So she would have been doing that with her main role that I wrote for her in the franchise, or I would have written where she would have been Static's woman. Reason being is because for one thing, it would piss Superman off to no end to see this blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girl dating this black guy. And I don't know, I just felt like the dynamic of her and her ice powers and him and his electricity together made a pretty good couple. And I think they look good together. So Elsa would have been Static's woman. And his really, really love Static too. That's how I wanted them to be, all right? So she's Static Shock's woman. And on top of that, her side gig, I would have made Elsa a flight attendant because I could just see her as a flight attendant on these flights, in these airplanes, serving people, saving people if she needs to. And just being Elsa, all right? And that's pretty much it. She's Static Shock's woman and a flight attendant, all right? And that's pretty much it for Elsa. These are going by pretty quick because, like I said, these are the ones that I'm kind of just adding on here, all right? So with that being said, that's Elsa. Let's move on to the next character. All right?
Wolverine.
All right, Wolverine. Now, if you're confused, yes, Wolverine is a Marvel comic character. So why would he be affiliated with the Justice League? He's kind of sort of not. I just kind of included him in this thing. He's not a member of the Justice League, nor was he originally written into the franchise. He was supposed to be, though. He was one of those characters that right before we stopped doing this, I was about to write him into the franchise. Basically, I wanted Wolverine to be the Marvel counterpart to Batman in the franchise. He was supposed to be kind of a rival to Batman. I never got there. And like I say, he's not a part of the Justice League, but since he's a hero, in the sense, I included him onto this thing. And his personality would have been how he is, Wolverine, Logan. There's no need to change nothing about his personality, all right? Now, the side gig that I gave him, I would have given him those. He would have been working in the school with Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and them. And he would have been the gym teacher, the school gym teacher that's disgruntled and mad all the time, all right? That's the side gig I would have gave Wolverine. And on top of that, he would have been a disgruntled mechanic with Shrek. Yeah, I would have had him and Shrek together as mechanics. Shrek would annoy the shit out of him while they're trying to work on a car. I don't know. As you can see, I kind of place a lot of these superhero characters with the most random, goofy cartoon character or whatever on their little side gig. So basically, that would have been Wolverine's role in a nutshell. He would have been a rival to Batman, and he also would have been kind of stood up to Superman to an extent. So that would have been Wolverine. That's pretty much it, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the next character, all right?
Merida.
Merida from Brave. Now again, another Disney princess, another affiliate, all right? Not even really an affiliate. Now obviously Brave didn't exist when we started writing this, so Merida is not an original written character on the franchise. She's one of those add-ons that I bought onto it, and simply because she can hold her own too. So I can see her being a part of the Justice League, but her affiliation is more with Wolverine because in our franchise, she is Wolverine's woman. And you can see why I kind of put the two of them together. I mean, she's as tough as he is. I feel like they match each other. They look good together. So basically her role would have been Wolverine's woman. And when she's not doing that, her side gig is she is an MMA fighter. Because Merida looks like she can do MMA and kick somebody's ass. All right, so that's why I would have given her that side gig. But for the most part, she'd have been Wolverine's woman, and then an MMA fighter on top of that. All right. And again, there's not much to talk about with that character because I didn't get to write her into the franchise. But if that's what she would have been, all right. So with that being said, let's keep going. Move on to the next character. All right?
Spider-Man.
Peter Parker, Spider-Man, again, a Marvel character. So he's not a part of the Justice League or even affiliated with them. And I didn't write him originally into the franchise. He's another add-on that I was going to write once, right before we stopped. But he would have played an important part within the franchise if I'd have kept writing it. Because basically he's Spider-Man, he's Peter Parker. There's no difference in his personality. But the side gig I would have given him is I would have made him the school photographer that works in the same school with Superman and all them. And him being Spider-Man, obviously, I would have had it to where Superman pretty much finds out who he is. Like, he would work at the school, and Superman wouldn't like Peter Parker off the bat because he's this young punk that just sits around and takes pictures and is cool with everybody. But little be known to Superman, this is actually Spider-Man, and he would find out because it would be something weird about this Peter Parker kid every time something happened. So one day I would have it to where Clark Kent, Superman, followed him home and hid up in the tree, beside his room and used his X-ray vision to look into Peter Parker's room to see what he was up to. And he discovered Peter taking off his outfit, revealing the Spider-Man costume. He's like, son of a bitch. And Superman already doesn't like Spider-Man, because he's a Marvel comic. So once he found that out, he would confront Peter in the school and reveal that he's Superman, thus become another rival for Superman, right? And that's pretty much the idea that I had for him. And like I said, the side gig of him would have been the school photographer, all right? And that's pretty much it. Obviously, it went nowhere because I didn't get far enough to write him into the franchise, but that's what it would have been, all right? And that's Spider-Man, all right? So with that being said, let's move on to the last and final character, all right?
Aurora.
Princess Aurora, last and not least, but not least, all right? Now, obviously, this is another Disney princess, and so more so of an affiliate than a member. She's not a part of the Justice League. Matter of fact, or even affiliated with them, all right? Now, even though Aurora did exist at the time we were creating this franchise, she wasn't written into the franchise originally. Like, we had nothing to do for Sleeping Beauty, all right? But I included her this time because basically she would have been Spider-Man, Peter Parker's woman. Okay, and that's because I wanted a woman for him. Everybody else seemed to have a Disney princess, so she was one of the ones I had to use. So that's why I picked her. And quite frankly, they look good together, alright? And so she'd have basically been Spider-Man's woman and basically his ride or die. And her little side gig on top of that was I made her a life coach. I don't know why. I just did, you know. Oh, on top of that, I forgot to mention, since I'm talking about Spider-Man, his actual side gig, because I forgot to mention that, other than being a school photographer, was he's also an Amazon worker with Bender from Futurama. I don't know, I just put them together. Spider-Man and Bender, Amazon workers, alright? Pretty much. But yeah, Aurora, his woman, was either she's been a lifeguard outside of being Spider-Man's woman. And that's it. Not too much to go off at, other than that. And with that being said, that's pretty much it. That's the Justice League little group in a nutshell, alright? So now then, if you like these, I'm almost done with these. I got a few more to go, and then I'll be done.